One of the questions that you've asked concerns me a lot about African American students is that I would like for teachers to read the book by Gary Howard. I use this book in my classes because it tells us that how we as educators expect more out of some students and less out of other students. And the main focus is that we go through self-fulfilling prophecy. So I give you some examples. In 4th grade, I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I was this kid, 4th grade. I was an early 4th grader because I had been early promoted or skipped. And so I said I want to be a teacher and a preacher. So my 4th grade teacher says, well, no, you can't be that because you have a speech impediment. You stutter. And so you'll never be that because you won't be able to talk in front of people. And so I kind of, for the rest of that year, I was still an all-A student, but I was very disgruntled because at 4th grade, she just taken my dream away. And then I had a 5th grade teacher. I was a top speller in the class, but no one would want me to be on their spelling team because we used to be on each side of the classroom because I stuttered, and it'd take me so long to spell my words. And so Miss Quarterbone was her name, and so she kept me during recess one day, and we didn't even have speech pathology or a speech therapist, and she told me how to breathe when I said words that you try not to say together that causes you to stutter. She was just an excellent and awesome teacher. And that year I went to the regional spelling bee. And that was a turning point for me to know that students kind of believe what you tell them they can become. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell them, well, you're not going to be anything because your parents weren't anything, or you came from this neighborhood, or you go to the school, or your socioeconomic status, whatever it might be, kids tend to think that. And so they measure up to your expectations as a teacher. And I don't want you to ever think this is a race thing. I think it's a caring thing. One of the things I say about teachers is that no student actually wants to know how much you, they really don't care how much you know. They want to know that you care. And if you can encourage kids and if you can care for kids, you'd be surprised how they will just surface and do quite a bit of things that you would probably say, gosh, this amazes me. But it amazes me because your expectations are so high. If you just hug a kid, you'd be surprised how that kid, his whole demeanor changes because he feels love. Because do you really know how many kids are never shown any affection? How many kids are never shown love? But if you can do just one kid, if you just find one kid that you can, Juliet, one kid that you can impact their lives in a very positive way, you will see that it's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not any other things that we've come up with, all these kind of things that labels we place on kids. And I say to my students a lot of times that we tend to label students. And once we label students, it's just like our garments. We check out the label and we say, oh, can I wash this? What kind of water do I wash it in? Whatever. And we separate them according to those labels. But if you would, in your own, say, this is a class and I'm teaching English, I'm teaching math, whatever I'm teaching, everybody in this class is capable of learning. And I do know that we have a different curve of learners. We have the lower to the higher as far as academics. But I can tell you, kids are just kids. And kids are cruel, but kids are watching you as to how you respond to how students treat you. And I say this quickly to you. I don't know how long I have, but I do want you to understand that don't be intimidated by kids. Kids can be this tall and you can be this short, but don't be intimidated by them because they will do as much as you let them do. I am Miss Holloway, and in this class we will do this, and we set guidelines in our classes, and kids will follow them. But if they ever see that you get nervous or something because they have different culture, different gender, whatever, then they tend to use that. The current issue now is access. Giving kids the ability to come into the system and to succeed. That's imperative. We got to do a better job of creating that for all individuals, but especially people of color. You can't just say it's there, you've got to show it. I mean, you can't talk the talk, you got to walk the walk, you know. And I think we do an incredible job of writing things down and saying things. but we don't follow through on things. So when you ask that question, I oftentimes think, for me, the best thing that we can do now is be mentors and role models for all kids, but make sure that they feel like that education is accessible to them and that they don't have to go it any other way. They can come straight to the horse's mouth and get it.
Would you like to add anything?
If I could add anything else, I'd like to encourage young people not to think of education as such a cheap way, but it's a way to impact the future. And I oftentimes think there's so many lucrative fields out there that we can make much more money doing. But if you invest in a child, you are really rich because you invested in the future.